Welcome to My View from the Piano Bench. We do this on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. here on my Joel Holt's Notes YouTube channel, in addition to Piano for My Friends on Thursday evenings. On Wednesday evenings, I'll talk about experiences or concepts or ideas. In other words, I'll move my mouth. And on Thursdays, I more move my fingers. I use my phone camera for this and move it a little bit closer, perhaps it could be even closer, on Wednesdays so that I don't have to scream across the room to my phone. Thank you to those of you who support and encourage me via the links you'll find on the support page of my website, and you'll see a link to that in the video description. This, in effect, sponsors these videos and is much appreciated. Drops in the tip jars, what it amounts to. The Patreon option is uniquely set up to be just a recurring drop in the tip jar, and regular support such as that will elicit a monthly thank you email from me with exclusive content. So the topic for tonight is when someone gets it. And as an artist, as a musician, I can't tell you how valuable that is. And as this works in my mind, I'm just going to move with the piano for a minute. All right. There's a reason I do that. It really, really does, and I'm learning this more and more all the time, every day even. It really does put me in the place where my thoughts about what I'm doing are clear. You know, there's a relationship I have with music that's specific, that's therapeutic within me, that's essentially what I would say is self-medicating. And you know, I've learned to live this crazy, ridiculous life. Now, I'll say that, and to many people, that's going to be kind of a curiosity. But some will get it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. So, in my recent doings, boy, my mind just blanked. Very simple word, and I couldn't find it. I guess I'm not being complicated enough. Yeah. Or recent adventures, or in what's going on now, particularly with the Blossom Deary project, the recording that Sharon Sable and I have released. As some of you know, we received a wonderful review. Hopefully I'll remember to link that in the video description. If I don't, you can easily find it on my Facebook musician page, or the Blossom Deary Project musician page on Facebook. The website is Jazz da Gama, and the reviewer is Raul da Gama, D-A-G-A-M-A. The reviews have been coming in, and if I want to phrase it like I've worded the topic in this newsletter, I would say that not everybody gets it. Well, that's not true. Everybody does get it. But I mean really get it. And by really get it, I mean like get me. Or I could put myself in Sharon's place, get Sharon. And a couple of reviews stand out, but one that has really buoyed Sharon and I was the one that we found, that we were alerted to while we were in Ohio last night coming home, where we took ourselves out to dinner, listened to wonderful pianist out in Cleveland. And then as dessert's coming, and if you read my newsletter, I made the blog entry about this. As dessert's coming, we find this review, and it's like what you believe to be true, but actually know to be true, because you have to have a conviction. You have to believe in yourself with all the doubts and with all the roadblocks and all the potholes to fall in. You really do have to believe. You have to know you have something. And then when somebody sees it and you know they get it, and not just, yeah, cool, but I mean, like, describes it and connects to it, uh, you can't overstate the value of that. And now I'm speaking to not just musicians, but I think anybody, right? When somebody gets it, gets you on a deep level, that's a great gift, right? And and so Sharon and I were both very buoyed by that particular review. Uh, I mean, it's full of superlatives, which a lot of reviewers are, but then he goes and kind of backs up the superlatives and lets you know that he actually did pay attention. And my little semi-snide remark in the blog post I made where I talked about this review was it seemed like some of the reviewers were making breakfast and reading the newspaper while they were writing the review in the morning before they got to the real business. And it's like, yeah, okay, click, check. But this has a lot more to do with than just a review. It has to do with that validation that we need. Yeah. Or do we even need the validation? I think that we would all be in our own unique place with that. I guess there'd be a scale of that. But when the validation does come, no matter who we are, it's something that we're very grateful for. But not only are we grateful for it, musicians, particularly on, I would say my side of the street, who are not like just trying to be popular and be a pop star or something like that, but are making their contribution. We need people who get it, because the people who get it are the people who facilitate this for us, right? So I have a new friend, and not just because he did something that was very helpful, although that's a product of this, but I have a new friend, Len, and Len is somebody who gets it. And speaking about the music, the piano, yeah, he discovered me on Facebook for one mutual friend, a minister friend, who is Facebook friends with both of us. I'm not particularly, I'm not in his little circle. I think Len more is, or was. But this pastor friend would occasionally share my Sunday evening hymn videos, and Len found one of them, and that started the dialogue. And then he became aware of things I'm doing. Hi, Len. I know you're watching. And then became aware of the Blossom Dairy project with Sharon, who was a big fan of Blossom Dairy. And through the long and winding road, he has the ability to facilitate something like a little concert trip to Ohio. And that's how that happened. And it's the people who do get it, are the people who in all kind of ways of looking at it we all need, just to be validated or to have doors opened for us. I aware of somebody who would say when a particular relative of theirs would find out about a concert, they would say, "Did they like you? Did they like you?" But what this person really would want to hear, and what I would want to hear, is, "Did they get it?" you know, I mean, there's an overlap, but I think you know where I'm trying to go with this. So one of the things that musicians deal with is less than ideal performance situations. So I am really, really blessed, or fortunate, whatever you want to say, that I've been able to make my living, such as it is, not just grinding out music because I can play music, but with a sense of purpose and finding situations where people are engaged in listening and not just, I'm providing some service, thank you very much. And I think in particular, although there are other examples, I could just keep going back in time, but in the last 7 years, my association with the Mainstay. And that association with the performance venue in Rock Hall, Maryland, that's very, very special, was facilitated by someone who gets it or got it or understood me. And I'm just going to say it, not many people do. At the deep level. And the people who do can easily become my closest friends. And then we can get each other. But I've told you this story. The new director who came into the Mainstay in 2016, I had conversations with him immediately because I was at the first show that he officiated, because I was in it. And I was helpful to him and, tell him, okay, go to this, attend this thing, go here, meet people. And one of those things that I suggested he do was something I was performing at, but it wasn't because I was performing. And it was an event where I was the musical director, where I accompanied a whole bunch of performers, back, like every 4 minutes at somebody else, and I get in a different space, and and he came up to me, and he was here for not even 3 months at the time. Comes up to me afterward and said, "I want to talk to you about a steady gig at the Mainstay," and that was just unheard of, and that led to the Mainstay Monday. But he understood things. He got it, and he didn't know me well, but he knew enough to open a door, and that door stayed open all this time. And now this venue that I get to perform at, it used to be weekly, and now it's monthly, which was, I was going to say was my choice, but it basically happened that we landed on where I eventually wanted it to be. Point being that this venue is a listening room, and people come and people get it. And that's not your typical experience in music for many musicians. And so, I know how blessed I am. I think of a particular gig that Shore Jazz had. Should I play it too? Yeah. All right, it's wonderful. Uh, just a nice old swinging jazz tune. So, talk about facilitating something. One of the magic environments for a musician, and it's not your typical one, is when you're playing in a club or restaurant or whatever. We just say club, and the club owner gets it, and especially if you're like a jazz player, and you know they when the person understands what's going on and desires it and wants it and it's a feeling of them and they pull the strings, uh, that's a really really special thing. Now I'm a little confused now because my brain, uh, some of you will get it. I brought up Len. Did I finish the subject? I'm not sure. uh, and Len facilitated, yeah, I did say it. Len facilitated our trip to Ohio, and of course we're very grateful for Len. And it's been some years, and I don't remember his name. I'm not talking about Len now, but the owner of a restaurant down Lewis, Delaware called Besame, that ceased to exist at some point. But for a number of years, Sure Jazz had a steady gig there. And it was one of those situations, and it's like the one I have on Tuesday nights now with Scott Silbert and Amy Shook over in Columbia, where you can sub the gig out if you have something else. It's like not the highest paying gig in the world, but it's a steady thing, and if something else comes up, you can put somebody else in, but it's always there for you. Uh, and he understood the jazz. He understood what that meant to the town. He understood that he could put the little easel out on the pavement in Lewis, Delaware, and like turn that back room every Saturday night into like a little piece of Washington D.C., a little jazz club kind of thing, and weekenders would come down, and it was a thing facilitated by someone who gets it and gets the particular thing, and musicians are uh, dependent on people getting it, but dealing with the reality that much of the time people don't get it, and you trudge through. I had this gig that's, those of you who know me know, uh, locally to me for some time up until 2016. It kind of, when Mainstay Monday started, uh, that other continued, then it dropped off soon thereafter. They called it a piano bar gig. It really wasn't a piano bar; it was like a piano lounge kind of thing. Uh, and the owner was kind of hands off with it, But his idea when he started the piano bar was, you're going to have like Billy Joel sing me a song, you're the piano man. It's going to be just a big party sort of thing. And it became something really, really different. And the good thing about that is the owner let it happen, even though he wasn't getting it. And he let it happen because people were coming, you know, and, if you're getting business, that's the point. And of course, if people aren't coming, it's not going to work, right? But the thing that really makes it go for musicians is to be understood. Now, you don't need to be understood by a lot of people, but the validation that you get when you are understood is really what you need. And that validation that Sharon and I received in that review from Raul de Gama is what we need. And validation that I've received from another reviewer over the years, Scott Yano. And he has now participated or written 2 reviews. One that just came through for the CD, and one that I engaged him to do of a live stream concert that Sharon and I did from the main stage. We were trying to get the momentum for the Blossom Theory project going. And, he made a really good observation at each one. And it's an observation that somebody is only going to make if they get it. And in this particular thing, it's the idea of stride piano. So let's take a little detour for a minute. Stride piano. Stride piano is that self-accompanying form of jazz piano, and it's really the self-accompanying form, or so it's said. It's like ragtime, and you cover the bass, you cover the chords, the guitar chords, whatever, you cover the melody. Right? So, boy, that was terrible. Okay, let's go on. I'm digging myself a hole. So much so that I just buried what I was talking about. All right. So here's something that if you've watched these videos that now I've been doing since the pandemic started under different names and such, I did address this in one of the videos, and it's the idea of essentially being a one-man or one-person rhythm section coming out of the concept of playing stride piano. So stride piano means that I'm covering the bases of a rhythm section, but it also locks you into a particular style, right? But if I'm covering, and this is more simplistic than I want to be, but that's the best way to say it. If I'm covering the bass, the chords, and the melody, right? And I'm doing so by playing a bass note, playing a chord, and playing a bass note and the chord, and I'm playing a melody here. Okay. Why couldn't I adapt that to another style? Like, why couldn't I, if Thanks to Dave McKenna, I figured this out. And those of you who know me have heard me say that, however old I was, 19 or something, and watching the Merv Griffin show and seeing Dave McKenna play and playing Sweet Georgia Brown and walking the left-hand bass, and it's like, whoa, why didn't I think of that? And the context for me was simple. It's like, well, I'm filling all the parts. I'm just rearranging how I do them. So I'm kind of equating or relating So I'm relating that to stride piano, and it's kind of nothing like it, but it's exactly like it in the idea that I'm taking, piano, bass, chords and melody and bass, and I'm distributing them, the three things, among two hands. And when I'm walking bass, I'm playing melody and playing bass, and then you don't really even need to grab the chords. This is a whole thing about stride piano. If I've not talked about it in this series, I need to do it. Somebody remind me, or I should just look. Have I really done it? But then, when you can grab chords in between, the point being that the same, for me, conceptual sensibility of playing stride comes to me in this. And then it's like, well, if I can swing, why can't I have my bass player play an appropriate pattern rhythmically? I wouldn't call that a pure bossa nova, but as far as why can't I apply it to that? Or why can't I apply it to a rock ballad or whatever? And, I've kind of created my own sort of one-man rhythm section approach to playing anything that I can, sort of figure out where it lays. And that comes out of being a stride player. To me, or pseudo stride player, whatever, where I started. And to me, that's just a given. I never heard anybody actually say it until Scott Yano said it in the live stream review, where he said, due to his background in swing and stride piano, and Scott knows me and knows that background, that I'm able to function as an effective one-man rhythm section behind Sharon and all the duo stuff. And I see that as my statement, as a statement of who I am, my uniqueness. Not that I'm the only one who does it. I'm not aware of many people who, do it across styles, but that's not really the point. The point is that Scott connected those dots in the same way that I did or do. And you can't overstate the importance of that validation. So you have the idea that people who get it facilitate things for musicians, and that's really important for us who are not just trying to please people in a general culture and be rock stars or something, right? But even more important than facilitating opportunities is well, it's all important, but deeply personally, it's just like, yes, somebody sees it, they get it, right? Uh, if you look over here, it's going to mess me up. But I need to look over here because I just looked over here. I have this funny relationship. Oh, okay. Yeah, with, anyhow. So in the recent review that just came of the CD itself, Scott made the observation, and I will say what I wrote in the liner notes does suggest this, but I still give Scott credit for seeing it and saying it, and nobody else has so far. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of with this CD, with this recording, is that for a lot of it, Sharon and I were able to really lock in to each other and the essence of what we're doing and perform as if we were one person. See, Blossom Dearie was a self-accompanying pianist, like Nat King Cole was a self-accompanying pianist. And both are singers, both are great pianists. And when you self-accompany, like when you're going to breathe, when your phrasing is, and you can lock in. But when you're dealing with somebody else, you have to kind of connect, with that, and not just because you're like counting the same beats or whatever, the phrasing, the lock, and it requires both people to be there. And that's something that I'm really proud of. I guess I'll say this is more an admission than maybe I should make, but after writing, that in the liner notes for myself, and then listening to the CD and the tune we put first, it actually isn't as locked, and it stands out to me. It's like, well, that's not the best first impression. I mean, it's good. It's connected. But I mean, there are some just places where Sharon and I totally lock, and Scott saw that, and that requires two people. So let's take this when somebody gets it in another direction now, and that is the musicians that you're working with. And this doesn't necessarily have to do with the level of skill or talent or whatever. It has to do, it does to a point, obviously, but it really just has to do with, again, that getting it on a personal level. And there are only a handful of people who really get it deeply, or a reasonable handful of people, and those are the people I enjoy working with the most, right? And it doesn't have to be intellectual getting. It's just like feeling the same thing. I have a ton of fun, wonderful experiences doing a two-man rhythm section with Mike McShane and Rehoboth, because when the deck sort of gets cleared of stuff that gets in the way, then that connection just is facilitated. Or Beth McDonald, we were really surprised the first time we heard somebody sing. I think we were in a radio station doing a live interview, and the person who was with us, who was director of the theater we were performing in, was going on about like how each of us by ourselves are good, but when you put us together, it's just this magical thing. It's like, really? Well, I guess that's true. But there's that personal connection as well. And the people that I connect with musically, I also connect with personally, right? And Sharon Sable, same thing. And, there's other musicians, but the three people that I referenced, I call these people my friends, you know, and I connect with my friends. Uh, and to have that kind of uh, connection on the bandstand is just a gift. And yeah, it's just a gift. If I'm going to talk about people in my experience with whom I connect, then I leave out, somebody really important, or two people important, Joe and Paul Mediri. Uh, but Joe, in this musical sense, and I in high school. And as soon as I thought of Joe Mediri, it's like, yeah, I need to say something about him. Then I played the chicken dance. And it's like, there we go. It's just being ridiculous. Uh, but then Joe and Paul, next year it'll be 50 years that I've known them. And they're my brothers. They're my brothers. And it's, the radar between Joe and I is ridiculous. Uh, and, and Paul and I have a different kind of radar. We don't operate on the same wavelength like Joe and I do. Paul and Joe, as I said last week, are very different people. But then there's this sort of, dance that Paul and I do when we're playing together. You know, he. So I mentioned last week Joe being very zen, uh, and just kind of falling into the moment. So it's like when we're like trading or whatever, he's right on top of what I'm doing, and often vice versa. Whereas Paul, there's this little maniacal look that he gets, the little glimmer in his eye, the little, raising his smile. It's like, and he's like piecing together how he's going to play 17 quotes all from The Sound of Music in one chorus of There'll Never Be Another You, or whatever tune we're doing. And he does it. And it's like, I can't do that. But, we're both pushing each other's buttons, and we both, connect in that process. So it's just it's a wonderful, special thing. It's a wonderful, special thing to be able to do this thing in which we, ultimately find a way to survive doing it, and we would not survive without some people at least getting it. And it's not about it's not about whether people like it or not. It's certainly connected to it. It's it's about, how do I say it? Okay. Okay, let's do it this way. This I didn't want to go in from this angle, but it's the only angle that I can find right now. I'm going to admit something, and hopefully it doesn't offend anybody. But if I express some disappointment that like I wasn't where I needed to be in a particular course, or I didn't clear the space, and then someone will say, "Oh, nobody knew. It was fine. Nobody knew," and most people would say that would think that that's consoling. That's about the most annoying thing that somebody can say to me, because it's making all the wrong assumptions and it's missing the point. You know, uh, like nobody knew, and it's like I don't care. I don't care because when I do connect, nobody's gonna know that I'm connecting except they're gonna feel it, because that connection is what that I'm making is what facilitates the connection with people. Oh no, oh yes. Now, is there a direct straight line? No. May I be really connected and it might not resonate with some people because they don't like it stylistically? Of course. But let's go back to what I've told you that in recent years I've done, which is throw out my, kind of rough sketch business plan I've always had about, how to get enough work and how, how to organize it and how to create opportunities and blah, blah, blah. And in the last decade or so, maybe a little more now, I throw that all away and I say, my business plan is to leave the house in the morning with the space opened up, after sitting at the piano and doing what I need to do, and then getting to the gig and not letting things get in the way and have the space be open, because if the space is open, then I'm connected. And if I'm connected, then I have the opportunity to reach somebody in that connection. And those relationships and those connections and just the whole deal is the foundation of what gives me opportunity to continue. And I'm not saying that I don't do promotional work and other stuff. Of course I do. But the emphasis is on what I'm doing in my process. And it's doesn't have to be understood. In fact, it typically is not understood. And this is a whole different thing. And now I'm sort of losing my ability to communicate it verbally. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to play a little bit. Okay, I've got another way to say it. How I approach things now is less about what I'm supposed to do. Of course, I do need to discipline what I do, but it's where I'm supposed to be. And particularly on stage, where I'm supposed to be. And I if I'm where I'm supposed to be, I don't necessarily hit a home run in the eyes of people, or whatever. That was a bad way of saying it. But I'm at that place. I'm at that place. Uh, okay, a bowling illustration, because as some of you know, when I was young, that was my that was my thing. Especially as a teenager and even into my early 20s. If I could have pulled off being a professional bowler, I wouldn't be a musician. But no way I was going to pull that off, and I realized at some point that I need to do that thing that I'm actually gifted to do, and not that other thing. But I remember a coach I had. My dad would take me to I'm sure defunct by decades now, Ivy Lanes in Pensacola, New Jersey. Perry D. I don't know his real name. I think that was his, I don't want to say stage name, but his professional name. Yeah, he was the house pro at Ivy Lanes. And back in the day, I remember he was Dick Weber's roommate on tour. But anyhow, my dad would take me, and I would get coaching. And bowling was a different sport then. It's all like technical now, and it's all about equipment and things to spend money on, and synthetic products, and before it was just rubber bowling balls, wooden lanes, oiled lanes, and nothing fancy, right? And it wasn't about all the power revs. It was about stroking, and the idea was to throw the shot, get it right, and if you could hit the pocket, and you could get at least 7 pins on your first shot, and you could make your spares, then you were going to be okay. That was the objective. And it's hard not to get 7 pins if you don't hit the pocket reasonably well. It's not make a perfect shot, because those perfect shots with those outcomes, like if you hit the pocket, you may or may not strike. You may make the best shot ever, and you might have a horrible break and leave an 8 pin or something, or you might just barely nip the head pin off one side, but you get all this action and you get a strike. And what are you going to feel better about when the emotion settles? You're going to feel better about that good shot you made, and then you're going to be happy for the luck you got, right? But you're putting yourself in the position, skill wise. So the goal is to execute. The goal is to do it, and it's sometimes you're going to get unlucky, and sometimes you're going to get lucky, and it's really that, okay, I'm in that zone. I did it. I did it right. And maybe a poor illustration, but I hope you get where I'm trying to go with this. And if it's all there and it's all happening, and then somebody doesn't get it, okay. And if it isn't all happening and somebody is all excited about it and does get it, okay. But when somebody, or is moved by it, but if somebody just like really understands the process, like the musicians that I work with, or the reviewers, or the kind people who facilitate opportunities, or the club owners, it's like that's what makes it all work for us, not just in the business, but on a personal level as well. It's you don't need to be understood by a lot of people, but you need to be understood by someone, right? So. And what inspired, I should say, this topic was the review by Roald da Gama of Once Upon a Summertime. So that recording is now available. It can be purchased as a CD at live events, or you can message me if you'd like, or Sharon. And on Sharon's website, there is the ability to download the if you want to have the files for yourself. And I will say that neither of those options are necessary for people in this modern age to listen to music because they all stream it. But owning it in some regard is the best way that you can support a musician, because the streaming revenue is next to nothing. It amounts to a little something if you're, a star and you sell millions of, or you have millions of streams. But on this sort of basic level, but you can also stream it, and one of the ways to stream it is on YouTube. It's really kind of cool that YouTube will automatically upload, basically create music videos, but the video is just the image of the cover, okay? And that just sits there, unless you produce a music video. But in terms of what we've released, audio recordings, but you can get a playlist. You can look up Sharon Staple, Joe Holt, Once Upon a Summertime, and then you can play the whole playlist and listen to the CD. And when you do, I hope you get it. Actually, I hope you like it. Did I just contradict myself? No, I really do hope you like it, whether you get it or not. Okay. I don't know if I'm digging myself a hole, but I think I'm, maybe a few minutes short, but hopefully I did something worthwhile here. And I appreciate you being here, and appreciate the ability to continue to connect with you most every week and at live events or whatever. It's certainly a wonderful adventure and ride, and I'm happy to share it with you. So thanks so much. See you soon.